Okay, get ready, because we're diving deep into a moment that's shaking things up globally, the fall of the Assad regime in Syria.
It's a historical turning point, no doubt, but it's also fascinating to see how fast everything changed and how differently people are interpreting it.
We're not missing anything: news, expert opinions, even what's buzzing on social media. We're piecing it all together to see what it means for Israel, the region, and beyond.
Exactly. It's not just what happened, but all the reactions, even from people who were right in the thick of it.
Let's start with the event itself. We actually have footage of Syrian state TV broadcasting the rebels' victory announcement.
Can you imagine hearing the Assad regime has fallen on a channel that was practically Assad's mouthpiece? Must have been surreal.
Like a scene from a movie.
Yeah.
And the reactions, straight out of the history books, unfolding right before our eyes.
You've got pure joy in Damascus. Celebrations from Syrian refugees finally daring to hope. Even residents of Marj al-Shams, that's a Druze community on the Golan Heights, formerly under Syrian control, they're seeing this as their second Independence Day.
It's amazing how one event sparks so many different meanings. Liberation for some, a warning sign for others.
And that's what makes it so gripping. You can't view this through just one lens.
True, because while some celebrate, our sources also show anxiety in Iran, Assad's longtime ally.
Analysts are warning about new threats to stability in the region, and some are even pointing fingers, claiming Israel orchestrated the whole thing.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. We have former Israeli officials practically taking a victory lap, saying they weakened the regime. Some even suggest Israel should get more aggressive with Iran now.
Which is wild because, on the other hand, we have current Israeli officials like Yair Lapid criticizing Netanyahu's response as reckless and maybe even dangerous.
Feels like a political tug-of-war, everyone using this event to push their own agenda.
And just to add another layer, a Syrian commentator actually thanks Israel for helping to overthrow Assad, totally contradicts Lapid's warnings.
It's a reminder that even those closest to the situation can have completely different takes on what's happening.
Brings up a key question. What did Israel really do, and what will they do next?
Some sources point to the IDF actively weakening Assad, while others stress the internal factors driving the rebellion.
This isn't black and white. It's more like a gray area, a blend of internal pressures and outside influence.
That ambiguity fuels the speculation about Israel's next move. Do they go all in and try to dismantle Iran's influence completely?
Or do they play it safe, focus on securing their own borders and interests, especially the Golan Heights?
Seems like everyone is trying to make this event fit their worldview, whether it's a win for democracy or a sign of chaos to come.
And that leads us to the bigger picture. How does Assad's fall impact the whole region?
This isn't just about Syria. It's a massive power shift in the Middle East, and the ripple effects could go way beyond its borders.
Alliances might change, rivalries flare up, and the fight against terrorism, that could take on a whole new dimension.
Get this. We even have former President Trump weighing in, saying the U.S. should stay out of it entirely.
If you think about it, that could be a huge shift in American foreign policy, leaving a power vacuum. Who will fill it?
Could be regional players, like Turkey and Saudi Arabia, both looking to assert themselves, or even Russia. They've been steadily increasing their presence.
And of course, there's Iran, looming large. They've lost an ally, so maybe they'll seek revenge or exploit the chaos to gain power.
It's volatile. No clear answers. Even the experts seem to be struggling to predict what happens next.
You know, it's crazy. Nobody saw this coming. All the intelligence agencies, the experts. Assad's fall seems to have blindsided everyone.
You'd think someone would have predicted it. Even the most seasoned observers. They were caught off guard by how fast it all went down.
Like a political earthquake. 1 minute Assad's in control, the next, boom, the whole regime collapses. Really makes you think twice about all those expert predictions we hear.
It definitely shows you need to think critically, question assumptions, be open to the possibility that things won't go as planned.
The world is full of surprises. And sometimes those unexpected events, the ones nobody sees coming, those are the ones that change everything.
Talking about unexpected consequences, let's look at the ripple effects of this regime change. It goes way beyond Syria. This could destabilize the whole region.
We're already seeing it, the refugee crisis. Millions of Syrians displaced, putting huge strain on neighboring countries. Even Europe is feeling the impact.
A humanitarian crisis on a massive scale. And it's only going to get worse as long as things in Syria are unstable.
It's not just refugees. We're talking potential for violence spilling over, extremist groups gaining ground, a whole bunch of security challenges popping up in this power vacuum.
Like a powder keg, just waiting for a spark. And Assad's fall might be that spark.
And then there's Iran. They were Assad's biggest backers. They've lost a key ally. How will they react?
The sources we've looked at suggest a few possibilities. They could get more aggressive, try to reassert their influence through groups like Hezbollah.
Or maybe they'll play it safe, focus on consolidating their power within Iran, get ready for a possible showdown with the West down the line.
It's complicated, no easy answers. But one thing's for sure, Iran isn't just going to sit back and watch their regional ambitions fall apart.
They're a major player in the Middle East, and they've proven they'll use any means necessary to protect their interests.
Which leads to the question of a bigger conflict. Could this escalate into a regional war, pulling in other powers like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, even Russia?
It's a sobering thought, and a real possibility we can't ignore. The Middle East is already a tinderbox. This regime change could ignite those smoldering tensions.
So what can we do to stop that? Is there a way to achieve peace and stability in this new reality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The sources we've analyzed, they offer different perspectives, but no easy answer.
Some experts say we need a strong international response, with the UN leading the way to find a political solution. Others think regional powers need to step up and take charge.
And then you've got those who believe any outside interference is doomed to fail, that the only lasting solution has to come from within Syria itself.
It's complicated, no simple solutions. But one thing's clear, doing nothing is not an option. The stakes are too high, and the consequences of inaction are terrifying.
We need leadership, diplomacy, people willing to have those tough conversations.
And as informed citizens, we need to stay engaged, learn about the complexities, and hold our leaders accountable for finding peaceful solutions.
Speaking of being informed, something's been bothering me as we go through these sources, the sheer amount of misinformation and propaganda out there.
It's like everyone's got an agenda, and the truth gets lost in the noise. Hard to know what to believe when you've got conflicting stories from all sides.
You've got Syrian state media saying the rebels are terrorists, while the opposition paints Assad as a brutal dictator. And then you've got international players spinning their own narratives to justify what they're doing.
Classic information warfare. The battlefield isn't just physical, it's in people's minds.
And that's dangerous. It erodes trust, fuels division, makes it even harder to find common ground.
And social media plays a huge role. Rumors, conspiracy theories, outright lies, they spread like wildfire.
So we have to be critical thinkers. Question everything, check sources, be skeptical of anything that sounds too good to be true, too sensational.
We also need to be aware of our own biases. We all have them. It's easy to believe things that already align with what we think, but we've got to challenge ourselves, consider other viewpoints.
Not easy, but it's vital for being informed citizens making responsible decisions.
Something we should all strive for, not just in this case, but in all parts of our lives.
Critical thinking is becoming more and more important in this age of information overload.
Now, shifting gears a bit, I want to discuss something that often gets overshadowed by all the political maneuvering, the human cost of this conflict.
Easy to get caught up in the strategies, the power struggles, but we can't forget, real people are suffering because of this.
We've seen those heartbreaking images from Syria. Families torn apart by violence, displacement, innocent civilians caught in the crossfire.
The sources we've looked at, they paint a grim picture of the humanitarian crisis unfolding in Syria and the surrounding regions. Millions displaced, homes destroyed, basic necessities scarce.
The trauma of war, it'll have a lasting impact on the Syrian people, especially the children who've known nothing but conflict.
A tragedy of immense proportions. We can't turn away from the suffering.
So what can we do? How can the world respond effectively to this humanitarian crisis?
First and foremost, we need a massive increase in aid. Food, water, shelter, medical supplies, it's all desperately needed.
And it's not just about material aid. We need psychological support, trauma counseling, help people rebuild their lives.
This isn't a quick fix. It's a long-term commitment. The Syrian people will need support for years to come as they heal, as they rebuild their country.
And it's not just up to governments and organizations. We can all play a part. Donate to reputable charities, volunteer, raise awareness about the situation.
Every little bit helps. It's a reminder that even when we feel powerless, we can still make a difference.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about a specific part of this crisis that's especially concerning: the plight of refugees.
Those images of Syrian refugees risking their lives to escape, searching for safety, a better future, they've become symbolic of this conflict.
And it's not just the physical journey. It's leaving everything behind. The uncertainty, the way they're often met with hostility and discrimination.
The sources we've seen, they highlight the challenges refugees face, both during their journeys and when they try to integrate into new societies.
We need to do better, be more welcoming, offer compassion and support.
Because in the end, refugees are people just like us, seeking safety, a chance at a better life.
It's our responsibility to treat them with dignity, respect, recognize their contributions to our societies.
Now, let's focus on how this conflict impacts the global economy. Easy to think of war as something far away, but it has ripple effects felt worldwide.
The sources we've looked at show the economic consequences: trade routes disrupted, workers displaced, humanitarian aid costs skyrocketing.
And it's not just Syria. The instability in the region affects global energy prices, creates uncertainty in financial markets, contributes to this general feeling of unease.
Reminds us we live in an interconnected world. Events in one country can have far-reaching consequences.
A lesson we often forget in this age of globalization.
So what does this mean for us as individuals living in a world shaped by these events?
First step is recognizing we're not immune. What happens in Syria, anywhere, can impact our lives economically, security-wise, even through the flow of refugees.
It's not about being alarmist. It's about being informed, engaged, understanding how complex the world is, how interconnected we are.
And it's about taking action, no matter how small, to make a positive difference.
Whether it's supporting humanitarian groups, advocating for peaceful solutions, having informed conversations, we can all play a role.
Because ultimately, the future isn't something that just happens to us. We create it together through our choices and our actions.
Well said. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to acknowledge that we've only scratched the surface.
So much more to explore, so many different angles, so many stories.
But I hope this has sparked some curiosity, encouraged some critical thinking, inspired some empathy.
If we've achieved that, then I consider this a successful deep dive.
Before we move on, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. The fall of Assad's regime reminds us, even the most seemingly powerful structures can crumble.
A powerful thought. A reminder that change is always possible. Even when things seem hopeless, there's always hope.
Absolutely. And that hope, I believe, is what will lead us towards a better future.
You know, with all this talk about power shifts and global impact, I keep thinking about the human side of it. What does this mean for the average Syrian?
It's easy to get lost in the big picture, but those individual stories, those are what really matter. What are they hoping for? What are they afraid of as they face this uncertain future?
The sources we've looked at, they give us a glimpse into that. We see incredible resilience, people rebuilding from the ruins of war, communities coming together to support each other.
It's inspiring, right?
Yeah.
Even with all that devastation, there's still hope, a belief that things can get better.
And that hope, it's driven by a deep longing for freedom, for a society where their voices matter, their rights are respected, a far cry from the oppression they endured under Assad.
But alongside that hope, you also see the scars, the trauma, that lingering fear, the uncertainty about what comes next.
The wounds of war, they run deep. It takes time to heal. And there are real concerns about whether this new regime will be any different. Can they bring stability? Can they fix the problems that were there even before the conflict?
Can they rebuild the economy, create a truly just and fair society? Or will they fall into the same traps of corruption and oppression that led to this uprising in the first place?
Those are questions that only time will answer. But one thing is for sure. The Syrian people deserve our support, our empathy, our solidarity as they figure out this new reality.
It's not enough to just send aid, though that's obviously vital. We need to listen to their stories, understand their perspectives, make sure their voices are heard.
Exactly. The future of Syria belongs to the Syrian people, their country, their lives, their dreams at stake.
And as global citizens, we have a responsibility to stand with them, to support their efforts to build a just and peaceful future, to make sure they're not silenced.
This moment, the fall of Assad, it's a stark reminder that even the most powerful system can collapse. That change is possible, even when it seems impossible.
And it shows us how important it is to stay informed, to engage with these complex issues, to recognize our shared humanity, no matter what our differences are.
The situation in Syria is changing constantly. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the information out there, but that's exactly why we need to stay engaged. Keep asking questions. Keep trying to understand.
Because the more we understand, the more we can do to make a difference, to support positive change, to stand with those working for a better future.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. This isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter, and it's still being written.
The choices made in the coming months, the coming years, they'll have a huge impact on the lives of millions of Syrians, on the future of the entire region.
So let's stay informed. Let's have those tough conversations. Let's work together to create a world where peace, justice, and human dignity win out.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fall of the Assad regime. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking.
And we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those human stories at the heart of it all.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, keep striving for a better world.